veil in traditional veil-wearing cultures, it seems to ostensibly be used as a way of protecting against the gaze, of denying sexuality, but it appears that there's a paradox there, in that it actually attracts a certain amount of eroticism because of the idea of something being hidden. That's where it differs from a symbol of disability, because I think it actually acts in an opposite way. I think it actually renders the disabled person as an asexual being within our culture. Maybe the same thing happens with disabled people and the symbol of their disability. Let's say a wheelchair or a white cane, guide dog or a hearing aid, whatever it happens to be, that as soon as that is adorned, becomes part of your persona, then it's almost like a veil, a veil is adopted. My guide dog's my symbol, and I feel that my dog works in the same way. It works in two ways, actually. That symbol kind of acts as a veil, and the veil goes down in some ways by me, say, walking out on the streets with my guide dog, because it's very much a expression or a statement of who I am and what my situation or condition or position is, that I am blind. But also I feel that a veil goes up in the sense that it changes, it alters attitudes of people towards me.
My experience is that the only way I suppose I can come to terms with my own experience actually is to kind of equate it with Suzanne's. And the only way that I can come to terms with Suzanne's experience is to equate it with mine. What really used to crack me right up was that Suzanne spends hours and hours and hours putting makeup on. And before she goes out, she won't let anybody see her without her makeup, which really makes me laugh, because she goes outside and nobody can see her anyway. It really doesn't matter how you look under a veil. I mean, there is a real kind of temptation to put your makeup on any old how. I often feel that I'm taking the piss, really, when I watch Suzanne and almost want to mirror what she's doing, but do the opposite, to slap the makeup on any way I want. Stick the lipstick halfway up the cheek or the eye makeup halfway down the face, because it really doesn't make any difference. You could be a bloke underneath the veil for the outside world knew. You could be naked. You could wear absolutely nothing. You just have this black piece of material covering you. It does suggest power in a powerless situation, which really is no power at all. Just for interest's sake, I did put on a veil once when I was over in Jordan, and put on Suzanne's veil, her black one, and it was really interesting because not only did people stare at me because I was wearing a veil, but I was wearing a veil while sitting in a wheelchair, so it looked like a pepper pot on wheels instead of a pepper pot walking around. It was very bizarre. The thing about having a wheelchair, okay, is that a wheelchair in any terms is going to obscure whoever is sitting in it. But what's interesting, and why you're finding more and more people, and why I've done it myself, having more jazzed up versions of the wheelchair, is to try and make it more of my personality. And so when I used to go around with, you know, a National Health Service wheelchair, which was grey and black, very heavy and very unattractive, you know, that was almost like wearing a prison uniform. Everybody wore the same wheelchair, same everything, all the same. And going, I suppose, up the disability status by getting a more jazzed up version is my way of saying, well, I'm stuck with this wheelchair, so therefore I might as well make it part of me, as opposed to having to be part of the wheelchair, which is what I was. And I do think that with the veil, a lot of women have done that. Suzanne, when she was doing a lot of her different versions of the veil with me once, when I first went over there to try and help me get over my shock, I think, you know, she'll say some women do it this way, and some women do it that way, some women do it half, or put a pin here, some stick the pin up to the side, some women cover completely, some people have a little bow at the top, you know, and she can't, you know, and it's all a variation of a theme, really. You know, at the end of the day, you still can't see.
Particularly in terms of sexuality, I think there's a great deal of confusion around how men can respond to me sexually, and I think that if they feel you know, that way inclined towards me, then I think that it's often tempered through because of the symbol, with feelings of guilt or confusion or whatever. I think it's very, you know, it's very mixed up, and I think that's what the symbol does for my sexuality in a lot of cases, not all cases, but in a lot of cases. So I think it acts as a prohibitor. I don't know so much if it prohibits the gaze, but it certainly prohibits the action.
The covering up is something that is, I think, is probably a way of just kind of putting a woman in her place, probably, or sort of like saying, you know, it's not it's not just come out from the fact that a woman is beautiful object. I don't think, not just that. I think there's more complex, you know, issues going on than just that fact that there's a beautiful object there. I think it's also about how women in a more emotional and, if you like, psychological way have brought a lot of fear to men. It goes back to their own insecurities and probably the need to control and the need to be, you know, to be able to actually control women.
I mean, I'm against the veil, full stop, because it does represent the power and control of women. However, it also represents a very powerful image of sexuality, of all women, not just the beautiful ones, a likeness that we don't see here in the West, and I like that.
I think that my empowerment comes through going out with the symbol of my disability and feeling a very strong sense of who I am and being able to negotiate through the world, knowing that that symbol does also create or attract this altered, you know, perception from the outside world about me as an individual.
The veil is quite a seductive thing. Men can get quite turned on by it, and because it's kind of mysterious and it's got this, you know, this sort of dark mystery to it, sort of hidden mystery to it.
I don't think that the veil is ever going to stop the gaze. It might stop it, but it's not going to stop the lusting after women, because all it's going to do is heighten the desire and heighten a man's need to know what's underneath the veil. I mean, if I'm told not to look in the box, the first thing I'm going to do is look in it.